wait. Before we start, people, how do we sound today?
Yeah, because we both got new microphones.
Woo! All right, well, my name is Hannah,
And I'm Rachel.
and this is the You Talking to Me podcast.
Woo woo! Here we are again. Thought you were going to get rid of us, but we just keep coming back.
Like a boomerang.
All right, we're both hyper and we don't know why.
Yeah. Maybe it's because we're excited to talk about the film we have for you today, which is Beats. It is on Netflix. What year is this film? Did
It
you
came
catch
out
that?
in 2019.
2019, and it's about an hour and 50 minutes long.
Yeah, and it stars Anthony Anderson from Blackish and a newcomer to the lead role of his own film, Khalil Everidge.
I am going to jump into giving you a rundown of what happens in this film. Beats tells the story of a boy named August who lives in Chicago. His father died of a heart attack, and his sister was shot in the head right in front of him. The bullet that passed through his sister's head ends up lodging itself in his chest. Because of this terrible thing he has witnessed, he struggles with anxiety around leaving his house and, understandably, guns. His mother allows him to stay at home instead of going to school. During the days he spends at home, he tries to reconnect with his sister by doing what she loved to do, making beats. One day, Romello, the school security guard who happens to be an ex-music manager, is sent to get kids to come back to school so teachers won't have to get cut because of a lack of funding from missing students. He hears August making beats in his room and is blown away. After building August's trust, the two begin working together. Romello helps August get over his fear of leaving his house and shows him just how talented he is. August learns to live his life for himself and to do the things he wants to do even when he is scared.
Honestly, this was a movie that I really enjoyed. It's probably one of my favorites, besides Pick of the Litter, of course, which is no match to any film that's ever been created on this entire planet. But I really enjoyed the story of this. I really enjoyed the character arcs and the writing and pretty much every aspect. Dare I say it?
Yeah, this film, I literally can't think of something that I would want to change. I thought that it was great, and the acting was so good, it kind of blew me away.
Yeah, especially with the star, Khalil Everidge. Like we said, it was his first lead role in anything. He is a Southside native and actually said that the filming took place literally like 5 minutes from his house. So he thought that was really funny to be filming basically a hometown story in his hometown. You know, it might not be his story, but it's a lot of people's stories and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun to just like see him in his element and things like that acting. And he did a great job, especially being a character who has like extreme PTSD and anxiety. His mom kind of keeps him sheltered in the house ever since this happened. Like Hannah said, his dad had a heart attack and died. His sister was shot and killed right in front of him. He has a lot of episodes where he kind of has anxiety attacks in public and has started to stay home, and his mom is very protective of him. He's all she has left, so she kind of goes to the extreme about it and keeps him under her roof, doesn't let him leave and stuff like that. He hasn't been at school in quite a while, and so he has to be this person where this is his normal life and he has to show this stuff on screen. And I believed absolutely every second of it. He was a very interesting actor, and I've never really seen a performance or actor like him before.
Yeah, I agree. I never felt like anything was being acted. I noticed it in other things, but in this particular film, I never felt like anyone was acting. I felt like they were living their authentic self through the film. It was wild. The one thing I will note, if you are someone who, I mean, it's probably more likely to affect white people. If you're going to watch this film, which I encourage you to, it does have a bit of language in it. I mean, it does curse a lot. They do say the N-word, which It's black people saying it to black people. It's fine. That's their word. They can use it however they want to use it. It was just, I wasn't aware of it when I first watched the movie. So the first time I heard it, I was like, whoa. And I was like, oh, it's fine.
Caught me off guard, but here I am. Yeah, this is a almost 100% black cast, and it's directed by a black director. I will say the screenwriter is a white man, which watching the film and with what Hannah just said with all of the N-words in it, I'm curious. I couldn't find anything when I kind of did some research briefly, but I'm wondering, did he write all of those N-words in himself, or was he kind of giving the actors a chance to, here's my script, improvise to make it sound as natural or however you would go off with this sentence or this, scene here? Because a lot of directors and writers do that, where like the first take or two, they say everything word for word just in case, their improvisation skills are not very good or they go rogue with the scene or anything. But I know with Melissa McCarthy movies, especially if she's acting in it, the directors will be like, okay, we're going to go one take, make sure you say all the lines, but we're going to go through this scene probably 5 times. So whatever you say, just keep rolling with it, just improvise. And as long as we hit these main beats of the scene, get from A to B and then to C so that we can end it, go wherever you want, So I was wondering how that kind of came to be. But I mean, you're a writer, you can, I guess, write whatever you want. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I would be interested to know too if the writer wrote it like that or if there was free liberty kind of for the actors to do what they wanted. I guess an interesting fact about our main actor, Khalil, he, like we mentioned, is from South Side of Chicago, but he also has experienced kind of like August's story. His father did die, and he has lost friends to gun violence. So it wasn't a sister, but he has lost friends to gun violence. So, maybe he's kind of just getting into the same headspace he was in when he lost these people he cared about to play this role, which I think obviously the pain of something you grow through can help you turn it into like a power, and his power is acting and making this story come to life in the most authentic way possible.
Yeah, I agree. And that's like what August did, is turned this grief into this extreme talent for creating beats. So I think it's kind of fun to see maybe what real life Khalil Everidge is bringing into his character of August Monroe.
I am a person who loves music. Okay, so obviously this whole film is about music, really. And I want to say I loved it. I loved every single minute of it. I was like, oh yeah, I can get down to this.
They worked really hard on this editing, can I just say, because they were very consistent with, so he has like a little drum pad, he has a keyboard, he has a mixer and different things like that, where he's editing what the different buttons are sounding like and synthesizing things. And it was so cool to watch because when he's hitting those drum pad buttons and stuff, the sound is matching up with it. If he's hitting, the one in the lower left-hand corner, it sounds the same every time in this sequence that he's creating this beat. They made sure they were editing it right on. And it was cool because I am like a real stickler for editing. I love watching it, and I'm one of those people that can catch where if the blanket in the background was moved in between takes. You know what I mean? I just have an eye for that. It was really cool. My favorite part of the editing on all of this was with all the beats, they would change like camera angle, and it'd be up on his face or down on his hands or the whole room or, from this side of the angle and things like that. It was so cool to watch the editing of it. And you just know that they had to take so many takes of this. And I don't know, it just felt like I was there and jamming with him, and he went into the zone. You could tell when he was just really feeling a beat, and it made me think of last week's podcast for Soul, honestly, a little bit when he was going into the zone.
Me too. I noticed that connection too because he does kind of drift off into this other world, if you will, and it's just him and the music. I want to know, do you think because it was edited so well, like, do you think he actually knows how to do this and he was actually just really truly making these sounds, or do you think that they truly just edited it?
Well, I wonder if, I'm sure someone else somewhere made the beats. I'm sure there was some famous music producer, working on it. And they did say there were some But I'm sure they're like, okay, just pick, listen to this part of the beat because we're going to work on the drum part this time. So I think he just obviously has rhythm of some sort. And he was a music composition major or something. And so maybe he has like a general idea of how this works. I don't think he was creating it himself, but I do think he was like aware of where things would be. And okay, this this sound keeps coming up, so I'll just make sure to keep hitting this one for that sound, this one for this sound. But he definitely knew what he was doing, at least to enough an extent to fool me.
And it was really good. I liked watching too. They brought in rappers to go over the tracks he'd made of his beats and watching sort of like a process of choosing which rapper would work best, their rapping style and maybe the words. I don't know exactly what you're looking for. I'm not a producer. I don't know how that works, but it was cool to just watch.
Yeah, I thought it was so funny. And it was most of the time when you watch a quick compilation or montage of people auditioning for something, they're like absolute trash. I mean, we've all seen the High School Musical auditions where everyone who auditions for the talent show literally sucks except for the one person. You know what I mean? All of these people didn't suck, but I could recognize why they weren't getting picked because they just didn't have that it factor, but they knew what they were doing. They were rapping way better than I could, way better than a lot of people I've seen. And so I liked this audition type process because it wasn't like really, really bad people and then this one really good girl. They picked this woman to go over it and she was really amazing. And she had the it factor that they were looking for. And I felt like I was in on it too. Like, oh yeah, she has it, where these other guys were kind of, oh yeah, they're good. They'll work with someone else sometime, but they just weren't it.
Right. I thought that was cool too. Because once again, it just made you believe like it was real. And like Rachel said, it felt like you were part of the process. Like you got to choose how this was going to work with them. And then you actually get to see her perform at like a party, and August gets to hear his song for the first time. And it's actually a song he wrote for this girl that he has a crush on. Her name's Naya. So Naya gets to hear it too because Naya went with him. I thought it was really cool to see August watching his song being performed and to have the girl that he wrote it about with him. And then the girl Naya is so excited because it's her song and there's an actual person rapping over the beat, and it's just really cool because I mean, just imagine if you're August. Not only is your song being performed, but you also have the girl of your dreams, I don't know, your biggest crush with you to experience it with.
Oh my gosh, I could not imagine that. And it came as a surprise to him. He was not expecting this to happen, but Romello kind of like set it up or whatever. So that was really sweet. And yeah, it was just this cute, you just felt like, oh, it's this cute high school moment. He wrote this song for her and she gets to experience it. It was just, oh, my little heart was fluttering. I was like, this is so cute.
It was super cute. And I guess that was really one of the first experiences of August leaving the house, at least in a
Yeah.
big way. He did go on a walk first, but he attended this party, and quite understandably, he's nervous to be in a crowd of so many people because who knows who has a gun or what's going to happen if a fight is going to break out. And Romello just keeps saying, I have your back, Naya has your side. I have your back, Naya has your side.
Which was really sweet. I just honestly got all the feels watching this movie because it really seemed like Romello was watching out for him. And for a lot of it, I really think he was, and he was like taking care of this boy, being the fatherly figure he didn't have. You do find out, again, we're the spoiler queens, so do not be offended. But Romello, you do find out, was being very selfish during a lot of this because he was a music producer for this, or music manager for this big name that I don't know, it was for Biggie Tone, I think is who it was. And he screwed him over with some money contract and things like that. And so he was then, getting money advances on other people to pay those people back and just, pocketing some and screwing people over along the way. So he really just kind of effed himself in the music industry because no one wants to work with someone who steals their money. obviously. And
Yeah.
clearly August doesn't know anything about this, and so he lets him help him. And this is my one and only literal critique of the whole movie. Near the end, Romello gets August and his mom into a contract and he gets to go sign it. And so they go and meet up with this guy named Terrence, who we see throughout the film that Romello's kind of trying to work on and get him to sign August throughout the film. Finally, they show up. August's mom is going to read the contract, but Romello goes, "Don't you worry, my lawyer looked over this. All you have to do is sign. It's all good." So she signs it, August signs it. Terrence is going to get the champagne and the celebratory snacks and stuff and passes them out to the newly signed artist. And so while this is happening, Romello must have had an epiphany or something in those 3 seconds and takes the contract and burns it in the office and is like, "He's screwing you out of money. I'm getting so much out of this and I'm getting this big pay raise and all this stuff," and just kind of like is going off about it. And then, August and his mom are obviously like very upset. August actually leaves the studio and like runs away and no one knows where he's at. And everything after that and before this scene is like one of the best and most interesting stories I've just kind of seen, especially for a Netflix original, I think, or at least it just was sent to Netflix. I don't know, it just has all these complicated storylines, but this one part of it just made it seem like, yes, I'm going to be selfish. Oh, wait, never mind. That's how long it took me to change my mind. So that's my one critique, but every character in this movie had a reason and a want and a need to do the things that they were doing. They needed to go get August because they needed kids to come back to school for budget reasons. The principal of this school and the security guard are estranged spouses. And so Romello has reason to go get August and get these other kids to come back to school because he wants to not be divorced. He doesn't want to sign these divorce papers, but the wife is going to be moving on. She's like done. She is complicated in her own rights because, you can kind of tell she still loves Romello, but he's stuck in these ways and she doesn't want him to get sucked back into that life because of how badly it hurt him last time and things like that. But after a point, she's like, "You're still just playing around. I can't live this life." And finally, he signs the divorce papers. But the mom feels this type of way because she's lost everyone except for August. And August feels this way because he's got extreme PTSD and anxiety, and all these people are acting so authentically to what their character would do, and they have earned reasons for how they act. Like I said, if the conversation about signing the papers came before and he's like, "Just sign these and then we'll go to the studio tomorrow and have a little party that he's going to throw for his newly signed contractees," or whatever, that maybe would make sense because he's slept on it overnight, or something could have happened during that night that makes him rethink, "I'm being an idiot and I'm screwing over my producer," and things like that. So I just wish that there was a little more oomph and reason for why he changed his mind in that split second.
The only thing I'm wondering is right before he does this, there was a line that was said by Terrence, something along the lines of, "Oh, he knows what he wants," when August signs the contract. And so I'm wondering if that line is supposed to be like that moment where something goes off in Romello's head, like, I know what I want, and maybe what I actually want isn't to be this dick and screw someone over. Let me actually do good for him. Because one of the things Romello's ex-wife was saying is how she thinks that Romello is treating August wrong and he's just in it for himself, not really for August. And so maybe this specific line is just like sets that thing off in his head and is like, oh my God, I really am doing this for myself. I should be doing this for August and what's
Right.
best for him.
Yeah, especially with when he keeps amping it up of like, "You're going to get your mom out of here. You're not going to be here anymore. It's expensive to live in other parts of Chicago, but with this contract and with the music you're making, you can save your mom," basically. So that definitely could have been it. I wish there was maybe like a camera shot that like slowly, dollied in on him to where he's like, you can tell he's thinking, because you can't really show thinking on screen. That's something that I've learned a lot in my screenplay classes. It's a lot of what my professors say is like, okay, but what does that look like? Is a big question, because we're writing for a visual medium. We're not writing a book. Yes, our screenplay is written so that someone will read it. So it also has to be an interesting reading document, but they also have to be able to picture every sentence basically that's on screen. And so that might have been where the confusion came in.
I get that. That's kind of up in the air. But I think that besides that, it was all just so good. And I think the sets were good too. Like, I
Yeah.
felt like from everywhere from the high school settings to the bedroom to the party to the, I don't know what that place is called, a music studio, where he was going to sign the contract, or the other place where they're finding rappers. I don't know, it all just like, and the lighting was different in all of them, and they felt exactly correct. I mean, I've never been in these places, but they felt believable to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think a big part of that is that, like we said, this was filmed in Southside Chicago, or a lot of it was filmed in Chicago in general. And so I think they found mostly, yes, they were sets, but I wonder if they were like real buildings, a lot of them. You know, like I'm sure August's room is a set because it's almost impossible to be able to fit all of that film equipment into a room like that, especially if you're doing crazy angles like that they had in there. I wouldn't doubt if honestly the rest of the apartment was kind of like a real apartment, or if that the studio, they were just in a nice big meeting room at a studio, or the school looked real. And what I liked about this is that they put you in this world without like shoving some of this stuff in your face. Like these kids have to go through metal detectors and make sure that they don't have weapons and stuff. And they kind of introduced that to you so that people like me and Hannah, who went to schools that didn't have metal detectors and security guards checking your backpacks, understand what's going on. But it's not like shoving these things in our faces and being like, this is a terrible place to grow up and go to school. It's like that. No, that's not what they're trying to say. They're just saying that this is the reality these kids have to go through in this part of the world.
Right. And like Rachel said, we never experienced this. I remember the first time I found out about a school having to have like extra safety precautions was I was in Texas visiting my godparents, and getting off the bus, all the kids had clear backpacks. And I was like, what's up with that? And my godfather was saying, oh yeah, all of the kids here have to have a clear backpack to make sure that they aren't hiding anything in it that could be used as a weapon. I don't know if their school also had metal detectors, but that is something that they had. And then I remember visiting the campus of one of the schools, and it's huge compared to my high school. It is bigger than the college here. There were security guards around, like much more. Our security guard, well, I shouldn't say our, because Rachel and I went to different high schools, but the security guard at my school was, well, uh, I wouldn't really say a security guard. You could walk in that building. I remember one time I did a test just to see what would happen, and I had something hidden under my jacket. It was like a yoga mat or something, but you could tell, like, it could look like a long barrel of a gun or something. And sure, I was still of the age of being in high school, but I had it under my jacket on purpose, walking in, not during school hours, and he didn't ask who I was or what I was doing or to see what was under my jacket. He didn't care. He just let me in. And
That's
it's sketchy.
terrifying. Because a yoga mat is like obvious there's something under your jacket.
Oh yeah, it was big, and I was clearly hiding it. You couldn't tell what it was from the outside because I had a long winter jacket on, and you could definitely tell I had something hiding.
Okay, so I actually did something similar to that where I was trying to sneak into the school, okay? Because I was a freshman in college. My sister was in high school still, and she had forgotten some medication that she needed to take during the school day, okay? So she texted me, during lunch, can you bring this during my whatever period class? I said, absolutely. And so I made sure to bring a backpack so I looked like I went to the school. If you are not a student, you have to sign in at the front desk and then like go to the office to like get a name tag or something, and then you can go to the appropriate place you're supposed to go. If let's say a teacher was having a speaker come in, or you're a parent dropping off your kid's shoes, they know where you're going. Well, anyway, I still could have looked like a senior in high school, whatever. I bring in my backpack. This period that she had was also during like a lunch period, because we had split lunch periods that class was also going on at the same time. And so it was during lunch, so it'd be normal that a kid was randomly coming in at this time. So I walk in and I knew there was a lady that patrols the hallways. So I made sure to like sprint basically to the back staircase and run up to the floor that my sister was on. I walk in. She had a very chill teacher that I knew I could come in and do this with. I come in, slam the pill bottle down on their desk, and walked out without saying anything. My sister said it was the funniest thing ever. But I literally walked in with, I mean, they weren't like narcotics or anything, but I walked in with drugs basically and wasn't stopped because the teacher just believed I was a student. Like, this is how dangerous things happen in high schools. And we know these stories about us sneaking into school or trying to sneak into school and making it look like we had something hidden under our jackets, or, bringing things into school that we are not supposed to. We are so aware that we are white privileged in this, that definitely had to have had an effect on the response to why nobody stopped us or cared that we were literally sneaking in a yoga mat that looked sketchy. But yeah, this is just a story, relating, trying to show what our experiences of something like that and how our schools are not at all worried about situations like this, especially with a white dominant school. They clearly are just blinded by the fact that must mean this is a safe school, which, if we look at all the school shootings, who's been doing it? White people. So we understand that we have white privilege with these stories, and that we in no way were trying to say like it's the same situation here. So
Yeah, not that that story should be true, but it is, and that's the reality we're still living in. But we need to work at a place where we're all treated equally, and maybe we're all questioned the same amount, or we're not questioned at all. I don't know, but it should be more cohesive across the board, I think. And the other thing that I noticed in the film that was something that I'm not used to from growing up where I did, going to the high school I did, was that they were having to plan funerals all the time in their high school. And that is wild. We had, well, a few different deaths of high schoolers throughout the time that I was in high school over various reasons, but not one that I can remember from gun violence. There were people dying from overdosing. There was someone who died from getting hit by a car, someone who died because of suicide. Gun violence was not a main issue, I would say, where we grew up.
yeah, and it was so casually put in the movie. They were having their budget meeting, and then all of a sudden she's like, all right, and XYZ's mom is, raising money for her son's funeral. She could really use the help. If you want to donate, here's a tin can. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, they just probably use this can for every kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's probably been used quite a bit for multiple children who have, been killed on the streets of Chicago, unfortunately. Like, that was just sad.
I think that it's good that we watch this story just to be kind of transported into this world, because like we have said many times throughout this podcast, sure, it was not our lived experience from our childhood, but it is a very real experience for some people, and that is literally their life being put up on that screen. And I think, once again, I know we've said this in other podcasts, but I think it's just important to immerse yourself in what other people go through and to learn about how other people live. And because maybe you would have judged someone before for being, or like bringing, for example, a screwdriver to school. Like, you maybe are like, why would you do that? Why would you need that? But you don't know someone's situation or what it feels like to be living like they do, and put yourself into someone else's shoes and to really feel what they are feeling, I think is important. And obviously you can't exactly feel what someone's feeling, but just to get more empathetic about what someone's gone through.
And this is a part that I love about film and TV, is that you can get these similar feelings reading a book, listening to music, listening to podcasts. There are definitely a million different ways to learn about lives of other people. But what I really love about film and TV, and why I kind of chose to write for that and go into this, is that when you see it like right in front of your face and you're seeing real people act out things, you are forced to see that it is a real thing. So that's what I like about film and TV. When you see it, it becomes real.
This is not, I mean, it's related to violence, but growing up, obviously, I lived through 9/11. Rachel did too. I remember being in that moment, standing in the bathroom, seeing it up on the TV screen. I knew what was happening and I was sad for what was happening, but I also didn't really feel like it was happening, even though it was on TV. So this is like sort of contradictory to what Rachel's saying of something being on TV. However, 1 year ago in February, I went to New York City and I got to go to the 9/11 museum. And being in the museum and hearing the voices of people and seeing the wreckage put me into that place. And I really understood how things went down. You could hear the way the events played out, and then I could feel like those people. And honestly, I saw someone's like glasses just shattered, and that hit me. I don't know why that hit me harder than anything else. So just like the museum put me in that place, films can put you in that place and evoke that emotion in you and help you understand things that you will never go through.
Yeah, and I don't think you saying, watching the planes crash into the World Trade Centers made it kind of feel like not real. I don't think that's contradictory at all because your brain is like, this is a traumatic thing. You don't need to see this. You don't need to register this as a real thing. But what film and TV happens to do is makes it very real. So if anyone has seen the movie Remember Me, I think it's a Nicholas Sparks movie, but Robert Pattinson is in it. And it is about one guy's experience with the World Trade Centers being hit. And that, I think, it's on Netflix when I saw it. I think that is the power of a movie or short film or TV, is that you can make something that your brain originally was like, nope, and make it real. And like your experience going to the museum and seeing a personalized thing like someone's glasses made you think like those could have been my glasses, those could have been my dad's glasses, those could have been anybody, And I think that made it really hit you as the personalized aspect of it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And then that's the thing with this film is that it brings you into the reality of it. And it was very informative, I guess you could say. And I am very glad we chose to watch this movie.
Yeah, I really liked it. And just one more quick point that I'm just going to throw in is I liked that this film was a Black story that was not in comparison or in reference to white people, because that is not required for Black stories. It seems in Hollywood that it is. If we see, all the Oscar movies that star strong Black characters, yeah, it does. It definitely does. And these stories are important, but it's always like they're being oppressed by a white person, and it's to make us feel better because we're not like that now, like me personally, but like it's still happening and we're only showing it as period pieces, for Hidden Figures, that was a while ago, Selma or The Help, those maybe specific things aren't happening now, but they're still happening. And it makes, I think, people be like, that was the past. Thank God we've changed, we're not like that anymore. We're like that right now.
Yeah.
So I liked this film because it was in the present day. It very much is a 2019 movie. They reference Kanye, being married to Kim Kardashian, but I like that it takes place today and it is not, I don't need to be in this film. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see myself because I'm not relevant in this world.
Yes, I agree with that.
The last thing about this movie overall is they have, at the very beginning, they show August's sister singing this little hook, this little melody that she just kind of like sings, and it plays throughout the film. It's always whenever he's missing her, whenever he's feeling really anxious and trying to shut out the outside world, he just keeps playing it. He has it saved on his little drum pad, which I think is it's really honestly a very beautiful little like run that she goes on. And you have to watch till the very literal last second and go through the credits because they finally play it in a rap song. And Romello says early on in the film, anyone can with a drum pad can make this beat. You need to make something that makes people feel it. You're not making something people can listen to, something they can feel. And when I say I felt this song at the end, I felt it.
Yes, it was so good. And it was a perfect way to end the movie. It was like the cherry on top.
They made you wait and then they just kept holding you and like forced you to watch the credits because you were like, I gotta listen to this song. And it had the run in it. It was very beautiful, and then it was performed by Happy Birthday Calvin. Anyone who knows who that is and is a fan, stay tuned. It's in this movie. So
I don't have any complaints, but I think that is all that we have for today's podcast. So my name is Hannah.
And I'm Rachel.
And this was the You Talking to Me podcast. Bye.